Brothers and sisters, this is the In My Grow Show. I am Alex Robles. So I want to thank, first of all, bensound.com for letting me use their music for my show. And then I want to thank all of you for joining me once again. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me and just to hang out. And it's a beautiful day in my part of the world today. It's been a really cold, wet, blistery week this past week. I'm happy to see the sun out, the blue sky. I get to go run errands. Well, not so much. Take the dog for a walk. Let's see. All right, let's get into what I'm smoking. Okay, so today I'm smoking on blueberry cookies, which is a cross between a Girl Scout cookie and blueberry. It is a heavy indica. Made the mistake early on in the day yesterday of indulging and taking a bowl in the middle of the day of this. Kind of wrecked me for at least a good hour. You know, didn't really want to get up and do anything. I was like, I can just kind of close my eyes for a little bit. Nope, you got to get up and do stuff. It didn't make me very crisp for what I needed, to be there for. All right, and then now in my vape pen, I have got I've got a cartridge of the infamous Jack Herer, pronounced like terror. A little history about Jack Herer. He was a cannabis activist. He wrote the book The Emperor Has No Clothes. I think it came out around 85. You should go check it out when you get a chance. No, actually, you know what? Go get it and read it, okay? There's going to be a test later. Much later. You know, it's going to take me a while to come up with the questions. But there will be a test, so go read it. Let's see, the strain Jack Herer. It was made by Sensi Seeds out in the Netherlands back around the mid-90s. And later it was distributed by Dutch pharmacies as a recognized medical grade strain. Check that out. That tripped me out when I learned that. Alright, so I saw something in the news that piqued my interest and I had to go look it up because I didn't really think about it until I heard about it. Let's see, I'm going to pull up the headline. Let's see, I got this article off of AmericanVeterinarian.com. And the headline reads, California bill should let veterinarians discuss cannabis with clients. And it's written by Carrie Lengiel. Oh man, I hope I got that right. If I didn't, Carrie, I'm sorry. Let's see, it goes on to say, Assembly Member Ash Carla proposed AB 2215, a bill that would require the California Veterinary Medical Board to establish guidelines for licensed veterinarians to discuss with clients the use of cannabis in their patients and to protect veterinarians from disciplinary action for doing so. Okay, so basically what's happening is it's against the law for veterinarians to talk about using cannabis for pets. Okay, the article goes on to read, while this bill is sponsored by the California Veterinary Medical Association, the CVMA, it has received pushback from the board. Board members have concerns about the bill's language, which states that veterinarians can discuss treatment with cannabis, but does not state that veterinarians can recommend cannabis to clients. The board is also asking for disciplinary authority over veterinarians for recommending dangerous dosages of cannabis. Because veterinarians are not legally allowed to discuss marijuana use with their clients, pet owners seek information on their own, usually on the internet. But erroneous advice from Dr. Google can prove detrimental for pets. Veterinarians should be making these, in quotes, it says, veterinarians should be making these recommendations, not all these other people, said Valerie Fenstermaker. Ooh, Valerie, I hope I got that right, your last name. Executive Director of the CVMA. Some veterinarians have expressed that they receive questions daily about this, said Valerie. Another holdup is that very little research is being done to understand the effects of cannabis on pets. Okay, so I didn't realize this was an issue, mostly because I've never really thought about it, that veterinarians are kind of in a tight spot because they can't really prescribe a drug that's federally illegal because they're asking their patients to break the law to get this drug, even if it's, I guess, in a legal state like California. So they want to be protected from federal prosecution. And then there's a whole question of, how do you dose pets? Is it by weight? I have no idea, I once heard, or I once read, I don't remember where I saw this, that dogs have 10 times more CB1 receptors than people do. That's why it takes very little cannabis to really get them loaded. But once again, I don't know if that's true. That's just something I heard. Yeah, it tripped me out, because, like I said, I'd never really given it much thought about the legality of it, about, where veterinarians have to fall in the law. So, yeah, so how do you wind up prescribing cannabis for pets legally? I don't know. What do you think they should do? Send me an email at inmygrow@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. Alright, folks, so I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to put on some music. Enjoy it. I'll be back in a little bit. And I'll have a report from the Cannabis front line. Brothers and sisters, I have returned, and next I want to get into the report from the Cannabis front lines. Okay, let's see what has happened this past week. Alright, so Nevada approved permanent marijuana regulation on Wednesday without debate. That means, I guess, nobody stood up and said, I object. So, good on you, Nevada. Alright. Let's see, Alaska raked in its biggest monthly haul in marijuana taxes with just over $1 million collected in January. Good job, Alaska. Hey, a little suggestion, Alaska, with those taxes. Here's what I think you should do. Or actually, here's what I think every state that has legal cannabis of some sort, here's what I think you should do with those taxes. I think you should use those taxes to give free college tuition to every high school graduate who's eligible. For 4 years, free in-state college tuition. You treat it like any other scholarship. You have to keep a certain grade point average or boom, we boot you out. But yeah, let's take that money and, reinvest in the future here. We can call it the Get Elevated and Educated campaign. Ooh, see, I like that. Elevated and educated. Yeah, but I think that's a perfect way to use those taxes. But that's just me. What do you think about that? Even if you're against cannabis, and you have legal cannabis in your state, this is a perfect thing to get behind. Okay, so this past week also some marijuana-related legislation died after failing to be voted on before the deadlines. These include legalization and medical expansion measures in Arizona, Georgia, West Virginia, and Kansas. If you're a cannabis activist in one of those states that I just read off, I'm sorry that happened, but you guys did a good job. We appreciate your time. You guys are great cannabis warriors. Keep fighting and get a hold of me. See if we can get you on the show and talk about what you're fighting against, what you're up against. So something else I want to talk about is a few weeks ago I was listening to a webinar by one of the doctors from Steep Hill Labs. I forget what his name was. The webinar was up on Green Flower Media. And he had mentioned something kind of in passing about cannabis being opioid sparing, which the easiest way I can explain it is using cannabis with certain opioids makes it so you need less opioids to get the patient to an effective level of pain relief. Is the easiest way I can put it. So I was over at looking at the NORML website over at normal.org, and they have an article, and the headline reads, Study, Inhaled Cannabis Augments analgesic efficacy of opiates. Doesn't say who wrote it, but it says that let's see here. I'm gonna read some of it and kind of skip some of it. The article reads, a team of investigators from the United States and Australia assessed the efficacy of inhaled cannabis and low doses of oxycodone on experimentally induced pain in a double-blind placebo-controlled model. Researchers assessed subjects' pain tolerance after receiving both substances separately or in concert with one another. While neither the administration of cannabis nor oxycodone alone significantly mitigated subjects' pain, the combined administration of both drugs did so effectively. Authors determined both active cannabis and a low dose of oxycodone, 2.5 milligrams, were subtherapeutic. However, when administered together, pain responses were significantly reduced, pointing to an opioid-sparing effect of cannabis. They concluded smoked cannabis combined with an ineffective analgesic dose of oxycodone produced analgesia compatible to the effective opioid analgesic dose without significantly increasing cannabis abuse liability. So how I read this is they've discovered that when they combine cannabis with opioids for pain management, it takes less opioids to get an effective level of pain relief, which is great to hear because there's a lot of opioid abuse out there, and we're all looking for answers. And this is something I think we should really study. Like I said, when I first heard about this, I went out and looked up everything I could. I went to PubMed.gov and looked up to see what kind of research they have about cannabis and opioid sparing. Not to get too preachy about it, but it was interesting. I have to bring it up. I'm trying to get a doctor to talk to me about this on the air. I don't know a lot of doctors. I don't know a lot of pain management specialist doctors who are going to come on and talk about opioid use and cannabis, but if anyone out there knows someone, let me know. I'd like to talk to them. Seriously, it's something I truly think we need to look into. And if it's really what they say it is, I think we need to spread the word about it. All right, folks, I'm going to take another short break because I need to get a glass of water. I will be right back. Podcast Nation, thank you for letting me take that break. I've got my cup of water, and I'm ready to talk about pH and why pH matters when you're growing a cannabis plant. Okay, so pH is just a scale of how acidic or how alkaline something is. The scale goes from 1 to 14, 7 being neutral. Okay, now every living thing has its own optimal level of pH that it exists in. Humans, we typically hover around 7.4 pH. Now, the reason pH matters when you're growing a cannabis plant is because different nutrients get absorbed more easily by a cannabis plant at different pH levels. Okay, now, I like to keep my pH in the range of 5.5 to 6.5 because the closer my pH to water for my nutrients, the closer it gets to 7 or above 7, or the closer it gets to lower than 5.5, the more the plant's going to start to struggle to take up nutrients. Okay, so that's why you'll hear experienced growers, instead of telling someone an exact number that they should keep their pH at, you'll hear them talk about, okay, you need to keep it at this range. Because it helps the plant have those nutrients more available, and it's just better for the plant. Is that making sense? Another thing that can happen if your pH is off, if your pH is too high or too low, is that, like I said, it'll cause the plant to struggle to take up certain nutrients, but it'll make it take up other nutrients a lot easier, and it'll cause what's called a nutrient lockout. It'll cause that overload of one nutrient to block out any other nutrient from getting into the root and into the plant and into the root zone. So that's another thing we're trying to avoid, is nutrient lockout. And that's why you should always have a pH test kit. I think the one I use is a General Hydroponics. Yeah, it's the 2-bottle solution. It's a blue and an orange one. I haven't used it in so long though. But and mostly because I have a fountain outside that I've got some fish in. I don't know, it's about a 15-20 gallon fountain. Maybe not even that big. But anyways, I got a couple of fish in there. And they keep that water at about a 6.2 to typically. So I just pull my water out of there for my plants. I use the little shaker test kit that they had, and I mean, that's fun for about the first 10 times. But eventually I got a digital pH meter. It's just a lot easier and faster. You don't have to use a pH up or down kit. I know people to use lemon juice. I don't know what the other thing is though. Get a pH up or down kit and a digital pH meter. I mean, you don't have to get the digital pH meter, but like I said, it makes things a lot easier. So if you go over to inmygrow.com and just type in pH into the search menu, it'll take you to an article that says a healthy marijuana plant needs pH balanced water. It goes into more detail about pH, and there's a nice little chart there about which nutrients take up at which pH. So go check that out over there. And, if you have any other questions about pH, just send me an email at inmygrow@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at inmygrow. If you want to support the show, go over to inmygrow.com and click on the link that says support the show. And you can sign up for either Patreon or you can use the Amazon affiliate link. Either one will work. If you can't support the show financially, don't worry about it. Do me a favor though. Tell 3 people about the show. I hope everyone has a beautiful day today. And remember to grow, learn, and teach.